Welcome back, everybody, to Hoops HD, and it is day number 7 of Championship Week Video Notebook. Well, we are halfway there.
Yeah,
How about that?
it's a 14-day week. We all know that, and we're halfway there.
I'm
I
your host, Chad
but it's
Sherwood.
but after day seven is when I'm supposed to be let out of the bunker.
Let's check in on that. First of all, we got David Griggs, John Salika, and Mike Cha with us right now. This is, as I mentioned, the Hoops HD Championship Week Video Notebook, and let's check in to see if Griggs is in or out of the bunker. Still in, Griggs, still in.
Yeah, but it's been a week.
That sounds like you're still locked into me. Uh,
It's been a
you were
week.
having fun there. You were getting drunk last night. We had some video of it up on X.
Yeah. I those videos were not faked. I got it. I must admit.
You finally made that. We got the real videos up there. Let's see what comes up tomorrow night. Tomorrow morning. Uh, let's get to the regular season games, and we had the finales in both the American and the Big Ten today, and then we'll get to the conference tournament action and four more bids that were given out. But Mike, you were there in the Big Ten at the game in the middle there, Michigan over Michigan State. Want to give us a report on the game?
Yes, it was an electric crowd. Very intense, very chippy, to be honest, very chippy play from both sides. And it was everything you wanted in a rivalry game. You have two excellent teams p playing a very close game. And like I said, a little bit chippy on both sides, but kept under control. Michigan ended up prevailing with their size up front and their shooting from three-point line. Usually they're not known as a three-point shooting team, but they did a better job than Michigan State, and they won. Now, in terms of seeding, it has an effect on the Big Ten seeding. Had Michigan State won, they would be the two seed. They would have been the two seed in the Big Ten tournament, but instead they fall to the three seed because Nebraska won, and Michigan was locked in as the one seed regardless of today's results.
Yeah, there's that bracket that we'll be getting to in a couple days here, a little bit more. Actually, start tomorrow night a little bit more. But they end up, as you said, Michigan State's up at three seed. I think the bigger seeding fact is Michigan State won this game. They would have had an argument to potentially toe that one line if a Florida
Right.
happened to slip up, but um, that did not happen. Uh, Nebraska, Stalika found a way in overtime against a really game Iowa team that Iowa played a great game for. I've been down on this Iowa team most of the year. I thought they played really well, but Nebraska did find a way.
There have been a pair of close games between Iowa and Nebraska this year. The first one went the way of the Hawkeyes, and this time Nebraska is able to get a little bit of revenge in the vault.
Yep. And Illinois got a hell of a game out of a bad Maryland team, but did get a
Yeah.
win, get the road win. So that's all that counts at the end of the day. Uh, Also, Greg, South Florida finished off the season outright champions of the American, another win over Charlotte. Uh, so congrats to them. They hung their banner today, even for the American regular season title. Uh,
Yeah,
also,
and I know that the American has not been strong overall this year. We actually downgraded it to under the radar, but I'm starting to wonder, like when you put South Florida next to some of these bubble teams, none of which are really establishing themselves, if they stack up and if they belong in the discussion.
well, one thing, their next game will not come until Saturday. They buy into the semifinals, which are Saturday. They'll play two more games, a Saturday semifinal and potentially a championship game on Sunday. And you start to wonder about that old factor of, will the committee even really consider it because it's the 3 o'clock, 3:15 game on Selection Sunday.
Yeah,
Uh,
they say they do. Uh,
Memphis beat Tulane in overtime to get the final spot in the American tournament. That's why that game was up there. Had they lost that and had East Carolina won, which they also did not do, it would have been reversed, and Memphis would not have even qualified for the American tournament, which is amazing, honestly. Um,
yeah.
UAB gets their second home win in conference play of the season. Did a little better on the road, though. Undefeated in the
Yeah,
American on the
undefeated
road.
on the road and a nice win, building up some momentum going into the conference tournament, which unfortunately for UAB is in Birmingham.
Well,
Yes.
it's in their home city, but it's not
Yeah,
on their true home court.
So
yeah,
we don't know. Is the curse just at home court or is it the home
yeah.
city? We're going to find out. Um, let's go to the championships. Let's start in the Valley. And for the Griggs, I believe the first time ever, the sixth seed won the Missouri Valley tournament. Although, quite honestly, it's a team that we all loved heading into this tournament, despite
Yeah,
the fact that they had to play the extra game. How about
yeah.
Northern Iowa?
They were my pick to win the tournament. They didn't quite get the route that I thought that they would with teams like Belmont going out so early. UIC had a really good season and a really good showing in the tournament, but Northern Iowa just they didn't always play up to their ceiling throughout the season, but they did throughout this tournament. And I, yeah, I think that they can. I think they're looking at what 13 or 14 line, and they might be able to handle themselves pretty well.
I think they're 13. I think they may have a shot to toe their 12 just because they're actually their metrics were the second best in the conference, believe it or not, after Belmont.
Yeah,
Just their conference record was so weak. That's why they dropped down to six. So this will be an interesting. I could see a potential at 12 line. I think they're definitely a 13 at the.
yeah.
We'll
Okay.
also get to it a little bit later, but other one seeds are also dropping like flies as well, so that could potentially open the door for Northern Iowa to keep climbing.
It
Yeah.
could, if for example, that South Florida team we just mentioned loses in the American tournament, if a Yale falls in the Ivy League tournament, there are doors there to open, absolutely. One door that will not open for a team that's towing the 12 line, High Point, Mike. How about the Panthers? Took care of, pulled away in the second half from Winthrop, and they're back in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, this is one of the few tournaments where the one seed prevail. You know, in the other tournaments, there's a lot of carnage, but in this case, chalk held form. Um, good game throughout. Well, High Point had control most of the game. I mean, Winthrop, they battled to make it fairly close, but I really never felt, I really never felt a point where Winthrop was going to win the game the way it was going. High Point, they've been the dominant team in the Big South all year, and they proved their mettle in the tournament, and I'm happy for them. I could see them being I'd say at worst a 13, but maybe a 12, just depending on how other conference tournaments go.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
Griggs, we just saw a few minutes ago. We are recording this before everything is done once again. Summit League championship game, and North Dakota kept trying to make a run, but North Dakota State had an answer every single time. And for the first time since 2019, the Bison are back in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, in a solid showing through all of this. They had a little more trouble with Oral Roberts than what I thought, but blasted Omaha. And as you mentioned, while they didn't blow out North Dakota, every time North Dakota it felt like they were getting momentum shifting their way, the Bison had an answer. So probably the best team in the conference all year is going to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they are. This is probably a Salika-like note, even though they last time they were in was 2019. The last time they won the Summit League tournament was in 2020, and we all know what happened that year.
Yeah,
But this year they will actually get to play in the NCAA tournament. But Salika,
yeah.
let me go to you for the last of our championships, which actually I think was the one in the middle of the day, the best game of all the championship games. How about those Queens Royals with the overtime win over Central Arkansas?
I'm very happy for them.
Yeah, it looked like the Sugar Bears were had a couple opportunities to close it
Sugar
out in
Bears
the
is the
second.
women's team, by the way, but go ahead, you can
Yeah.
call them that.
No, there have been a few references to the Sugar Bears during the men's games here, but once it came to overtime, Queens was able to get out to a fairly quick lead and was able to extend it throughout the final minutes. Either way, it was going to be a first timer headed to the NCAA Division One tournament, but Queens, I think they were there 4 years ago in the Division Two Elite Eight, but now they get their first appearance in Division One.
Yeah, Central Arkansas was dominated. Big comeback to force that overtime. And Cameron Hunter, 49 points in a losing effort for the Bears. So,
Yeah, and
hell of a game, 49 points in a single game, but
yeah,
not,
and
you need about seven more.
yeah, a
Six
hell of
more.
a season for Central Arkansas, and a first place finish, a run to the championship game, and nearly winning it for a team that's really struggled in years past. You kind of, I liked both these teams. I wish there was there was a way for both of them to get in, but there was only room for one, and either way, it was going to be a good story.
Let's go back to the afternoon session because we had it
Oh my
early
God.
today. A hell of a game in the Patriot League, and I'm not really even talking about Lehigh's where they held off Colgate in the first game. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
BU Navy game. Chance
unbelievable.
Chance Gladden at the buzzer wins it for BU. Wow. I'm shocked. Griggs, you want to take this one? I don't know who I want.
Well, yeah. So a couple things happened here. It was a beyond midcourt shot, I thought, at the buzzer, as you mentioned.
A
There was a
little
ti
inside midcourt, but yes. But,
Yeah,
yeah.
there was a timing issue where the clock started late, and we weren't sure if he actually got it off in time. They went and reviewed it and determined that he did, which was the right call. A brutal way for Navy to end their season after pretty much running away from the league, earning home court advantage, but not being able to get all the way through the conference tournament. Uh, what a win for Boston U. They're advancing to the championship game after a 2-point and 3-point win
Yeah.
or one
Salika,
point
this
win.
this conference all season was Navy, and the second best team most of the season was Colgate. And now we have BU at Lehigh in the championship game.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was also going to add, I think it was 1.6 seconds where the clock was late starting after it looked like Navy had taken the lead for good
Yeah.
on a Ty-Sedney-like layup, but BU was actually able to get the shot off with 1.8 seconds left, hence the shot counting for the Terriers here.
yeah, this Lehigh team just got hot at the right time. Now they're going to be able to host BU in the championship game, but one of those almost coin flip type of games. And at this point, the Patriot League champion can be prepared to go to Dayton. I don't think there's any way that either of these teams avoids Dayton in the first four.
Hmm.
I was gonna say,
Uh,
if you're Navy, there's nothing you can do. I mean, if it takes a beyond half court shot to beat you, it's like, what can you do?
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Over in the Metro Atlantic, Stalika, uh, we had a heck of a
Oh
first game
God.
between Merrimack and Marist. Game was close all the way through, and Marist actually got the ball with about 4 seconds left. It was a bit of a chaotic play. There was some controversy over whether or not there had been a shot clock violation before, and the officials should have stopped the game. Also, John Dunn, the head coach from Marist, had a timeout, did not call it despite the play being a scramble, and they can't even get a shot off, and Merrimack holds on for the win.
And unfortunately, Maris's NCAA tournament drought will continue for yet another year. And you look at the bottom half of the bracket, the Siena team I had been championing, even though they're a man down, they still have a chance to potentially steal the bid from Merrimack.
They do. The championship game won't be until Tuesday. Uh, I watched John Dunn's post-game press interview for Marist. He said, "Hey, I had the timeout. I didn't call it. I should have called it."
Yeah.
He kind of admitted that he screwed up by not calling that timeout because it was a chaotic play. I think he really needed to call that timeout. He had about 3 or 4 seconds. He could have done it, set up a much better play for the shot to win. But game ended
Yep.
in a kind of chaotic fashion, and here we go, Merrimack and Siena coming up Tuesday night.
But it was
Um,
also a bit of a gamble in that you don't want Merrimack to potentially set their own defense for what would have been the final 3 seconds.
I
Hmm.
agree with you, Stalika. And had they moved the ball up the court quickly and not chaotically, I would have not done it. But as soon as the play got a little bit out of hand, and you only had 2 more seconds to go with, that's what I call the T right away. Uh, that was, and I think John Dunn admitted that he kind of screwed up by not doing that. Um, SoCon Conference, Mike. It was semifinal day, and wow, a hell of a first game between East Tennessee State and Western Carolina.
Yeah. I was checking scores, and Western Carolina was winning throughout the game, and then I checked the finals, like, whoa, it's like East Tennessee State won.
Yeah.
You're Western Carolina. That's to me, it's more. It's I mean, credit to East Tennessee State, but I felt like, to be honest, it was more of a Western Carolina collapse. They had this game in hand, and they just couldn't finish the deal.
They
Even more
collapsed.
crushing for a team that's already beaten East Tennessee twice during the year and it looked like they were going to get the 3 game sweep.
I thought they were in the
Wow.
championship game for
I
most of
did
this
too.
game. It was,
Yeah, it would have been a
eh,
repeat of the Missouri Valley Conference had Western Carolina won. It would have been a 5 against a 6,
yeah.
but that's not going to
What
happen.
yeah, and Griggs Furman also came back. They were down big against Greensboro. Not big, but they were down most of that game against
Yeah, they had to
Greensboro.
come from behind to get the win. So not the final that we were expecting. The bottom half of the bracket kind of collapsed, but East Tennessee State holds on. Logic would tell you that they should go on to win tomorrow, but every game in this tournament seemingly minus no, literally all of them have been great games. I
Well,
mean,
And
minus
this
maybe the
remember,
VMI Greensboro game.
remember as this season went on this year, there was a time when Furman was the best team in this conference. They kind of fell apart, and
Yeah,
it seemed like every week we had a new front runner until the last 2 or 3 weeks when East Tennessee State took over. I would not be shocked at all if Furman wins tomorrow. I
yeah,
think
that's
that
a very good point.
I think they're just as good of a
Yeah.
team as East Tennessee State, despite the seeding difference here.
Yeah, and they were a team we certainly liked in the preseason, and here they
They were
are.
they were your preseason favorites in this conference, so
Yeah,
remember that.
But I think in the case of both teams, we all have to see how much these games have potentially drained them. Let's not forget, UNC Greensboro and Furman have also had a bunch of classic championship games in the past as well. And this year, it was only a semifinal round matchup.
Yeah, but I think we have two tired teams tomorrow after the game they both had to pull off comebacks, so that might balance out, Stalika. Uh, I expect a good game though. Where do we go now?
oh,
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's once again time to check in for the second to last time this season. Believe it or not, we've been doing this for about a month. The
yeah,
Stairway to Seven. And what a story we have here. Let's start quickly at the top here, where Southern Miss was trying to get their what would be the third win in a row here, or fourth win in a row, I think. They're trying to get
yeah,
the fourth win in a row. But Troy, who was the 1 seed, had just enough to hold them off. But then Georgia Southern, who began on Wednesday in the second round, has now won 5 games in 5 days. I don't believe any team in the history of college basketball has ever won 6 games in 6 days in any event ever.
yeah.
We've seen 5 and 5. I don't know that 6 and 6 has ever happened. And Georgia Southern with a great tough win, 31 points from Spud Webb for them. They're in the championship game against Troy and have a chance for 6 and 6.
Yeah. And it's just it was a crazy season with 7 teams potentially still in the hunt for first place all the way down to the last game of the season. So of course somebody is going to come up from the back and make a run like this. It's just
Let,
been
let-
it's called the Fun Belt for a reason.
let me throw a stat at you. Remember that last day of the season, Troy got the 1 seed. There was a 6-way tie for second from Marshall all the way down to 7 seed Arkansas State. Those 6 teams that tied for second went 0-6 in this tournament.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a good yeah, I had not realized that till you pointed that out. Wow. I mean, I
It's
would have
just
realized it because I'm a lot smarter than you, but I did not realize.
it was amazing. We were saying how great of a break Marshall got, how awful Arkansas State's draw was. It doesn't matter. All
Yeah.
6 of them lost. Their very first times out. Mike, what do you think? Could Georgia Southern do it again tomorrow against Troy? Because they're not going against a 2 seed now. They got to go against a 1 seed.
Man, I want to pull for Georgia Southern, but I don't think it's going to happen. Six game in 6 days, whereas Troy, this is only their second game in 2 days. I'm going to go with Troy, but I'm going to root for Georgia Southern. I'm going to pull. Why not?
Yes, Talik, I think Troy was the best team all season, believe it or not. Really should have had a huge win at USC, but for a miracle shot. So I think Troy wins.
Knowing Troy, I wouldn't be surprised if there was inevitably an overtime or two involved right here. But as far as Georgia Southern, talk to your baseball coaches about what it's like to potentially play for 6 days in a row, albeit in a different setting.
But baseball does 6 days in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, pro baseball, they go 14, 15 days in a row sometimes.
They have double headers too.
Yeah.
Basketball, you don't play 6 days in a row. Like I said, we've seen teams pull a 5 and 5, never 6 and 6. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
3 games in 30 hours. I remember that.
Yeah, we've seen teams play 2 games in one day even.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2008
them
Georgia.
Big Sky Conference. Only one game final as of the time we're recording this. Portland State got a much bigger battle out of Idaho State than we thought they would. And right now, Montana State getting a battle from Idaho in the second of the 2 quarterfinals on for today. But we
Yeah.
are recording this a little early. But Griggs, any thoughts on at least on that Portland State game?
Well, not well. Portland State seemed to get battles all year long. They weren't to the level of Miami, but I mean, they won a lot of the games they won were fairly close. So I guess it isn't that surprising that they kind of struggle a little bit with Idaho State. Um, Idaho, I mean, the heat around that Wazoo Idaho rivalry, I think it's just now starting to wear off, and they're starting to focus more on Montana State.
Okay. Uh, we do have the other two quarterfinals tomorrow, Sleeka, Montana, Northern Colorado, and Eastern Washington, Weber State. Any thoughts on those two games?
We had kind of covered during the Big Sky preview that Portland State was struggling a bit down the stretch just to clinch the number one seed, and I wasn't terribly surprised that they may have a close game, for example. But Northern Colorado has been the polar opposite, where they got off to a very slow start in the conference and have suddenly caught fire. So I certainly see why Northern Colorado was picked by most of the panel to win the tournament. I still think Montana State, who is ahead as we speak right now, probably in a better position to, at the very least, win the bottom half of the bracket, and I would still stick with that pick as far as who goes to the championship game.
Yeah, I think you will see Northern Colorado, Eastern Washington both win, but I agree with you. I think Montana State ends up at the finals here. But like we said, they may not even be on the board come tomorrow morning if they can't hold off Idaho tonight. Uh, we have a new name for it. We're renaming a conference here, Griggs, I think. The
Okay.
CAA is no longer the Coastal Athletic Association. It's now the Chaotic Athletic Association.
Yeah. Well,
I have no idea what the hell happened today, but we saw four blowouts, two of them by the 7 seed and the 9 seed over the 1 seed and the 2 seed.
yeah. The Campbell blowout over Wilmington was particularly shocking. Wilmington,
Towson Charleston was just as shocking. But go ahead.
yeah. Oh, God. Well, I mean, Wilmington had just looked really good. Townsend, while we had talked about how there was about 8 different teams that we thought had a chance to win this tournament, and Townsend was one of them. Although I don't think we were expecting this kind of an explosion against a Charleston team that appeared to be hitting its stride and getting healthy. Um, you know, yeah, yeah, that's a good rebrand. The Chaotic Athletic Association. Hofstra holding serve. My pick's still alive.
Yeah, Hofstra actually was the only top seed that really looked dominant today. The Monmouth Drexel game was actually close for a while. Monmouth found a way to win. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, Campbell was not one of the 8 teams that any of us thought could win this conference
No,
tournament.
it
Here
was
they
not.
are.
Yeah.
Mike, semifinals tomorrow. Campbell, Monmouth, Towson, Hofstra. Who do you got?
I mean, after what happened today, I might as well just put their names in a hat and just, pick one that's like any, mini, money, mo. Um, but I'm going to go with Hofstra.
Yeah.
You go with Hofstra
I,
and yeah,
I think the winner of the Towson Hofstra game blows out the other one, or maybe not.
uh,
Maybe Campbell is on their way to the Sweet 16.
well, Salika, you might be on board with me on this is kind of the Monmouth redemption year, maybe. I mean, King Rice has some great teams at Monmouth, has never made the NCAA tournament. Is this his year finally?
It was 10 years ago where Monmouth just broke onto the map during the 2015 Old Spice tournament, managed to get 2 wins, and certainly had an at-large case, but ultimately they had like too many sub 200 losses that doomed the Hawks. And we even went to the Hawks Nest for a game that year, and ultimately they were one of the first four out. But I do think there's probably going to be a Monmouth Hofstra matchup, so you get the Jersey Shore versus the Long Island angle going.
Yeah.
Mhm. Uh, as we record this, the second game in the West Coast Conference is going on. Oregon State beat San Francisco. There was a 3 at the buzzer, so it wasn't quite as close as that. Actually, San Francisco, Griggs jumped out to an early lead. Oregon State came back and had a lead and it held on down the stretch there. They get the
Yeah.
Zags tomorrow night.
A
So good
good
luck.
win for the Beavers. They've had not a great year, but a much better year than I think a lot of us were expecting to have, and I think it ends tomorrow.
Well, last time Wayne Tinkle was serious on the hot seat, he made the Elite Eight. So
Yes.
now he's already he's already gone after this season, but here he is Can he do it again? Can he knock off the Zags tomorrow? I don't think he
Yeah,
can.
one of the more remarkable runs, they needed to win the Pac-12 tournament just to get into the NCAAs. I think their chances of doing that were somewhere around 1 billion to one. They did it and then went to the Elite Eight and nearly made the Final Four.
Hell, why not? Let's see if it happens again tomorrow. I don't think it will,
Yeah,
like I said. As we record this, Santa Clara is up about 8 in the first half over Pacific. Assuming they win that, we do have a great game coming up tomorrow night.
yeah,
Potentially
another,
between St. Mary's and Santa Clara, round 3 of that. They've split so far this year.
yeah, and we'll be up late watching that one.
Salika, got to ask you about the Horizon League. Northern Kentucky
Oh boy,
dominant over Green Bay in the single final, middle final, non-quarter final, whatever we're calling this round.
The second round quarterfinal, I guess we can
The
call
second
it.
quarterfinal. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's just say Northern Kentucky has a lot more familiarity with what was formerly the Farmers Coliseum as opposed to Green Bay, which is probably their first experience in at least the tournament setting in Indianapolis. And Doug Gottlieb's team certainly got a bit of a rude awakening today against a team that's typically more tournament tested. Now, however, we have had five different champions in the Horizon League during the past 5 years, and the only one that's not among that group is Detroit Mercy, who's in the bottom half of the bracket this year.
Yeah, Mike, what do we think about these games? We got a Wright State Northern Kentucky semifinal
fun
tomorrow,
rivalry. Yeah.
which is a great rivalry, and Robert Morris Detroit Mercy could be a fun game also.
Yeah, yeah. Go UDM. But it looks we got two really good matchups. Um, I mean, Wright State is the favorite to win, but you just the way these conference tournaments are going, it just anything can happen. But I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's action with these two games.
Now
Mark,
the question I have here as far as Detroit Mercy is our old friend the Detroit Mercy professor going to be making the trip because he always had a nice eclectic collection of books he would be reading behind the
Yeah.
sidelines.
yeah, Greg, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Wright State has just been losing a lot of inexplicable games this year. I think they fall tomorrow, and I think the Robert Morris UDM winner wins this tournament.
I'm not going to pick that, but I was going to make that point and say that it wouldn't surprise me if Northern Kentucky, because of the rivalry, because of how inconsistent not just Wright State but the whole league has been, it's not crazy to think that NKU can win that game.
Uh, Southland Conference, Griggs. Let me stick with you. We had a pair of honestly clunkers today in the opening
Yeah.
round. Any thoughts on either one of these two games?
Just that they were clunkers and New Orleans, a fairly talented team getting the win. They're still alive. Nichols, Northwestern State. I don't know. I think New Orleans has a chance tomorrow. I don't think Nichols gets by UTRGV.
And I don't think either of these games tomorrow matter because I think SFA and McNeese will win on Tuesday, and that'll
Right,
be.
yeah.
Uh, but we will play two more games in this conference tomorrow, so we'll talk about them tomorrow night during our show.
hmm
That was it for all of today's action and all of tomorrow's action, except for one more conference that's starting things off in a brand new conference tournament format for the first time in a long time. They're taking everybody into the conference tournament. It is the strange little ladder format of the SWAC tournament where seeds 7 through 12 got to do 2 rounds before they get to the main bracket. So tomorrow we've got Alabama State, Alcorn State, and Grambling against Mississippi Valley. Salika, what do you got for us in tomorrow's games?
I think they thought the setup of the Horizon was ridiculous, so they just wanted to make sure that there was a somewhat coherent ladder right here where you get at least a little play in toward the possibly 8-10 game versus a 7-9 game right
Yeah,
here. This is
and that is not a mistake on the screen there. For some reason, normally you would have thought that the 9-12 winner would play the 8 winner, the 10-11 would play the 7. No, they reversed that too for I don't know what reason. So eight seed plays the 10-11 winner, the 7 seed plays the 9-12 winner. That's the SWAC. That's what they want to do.
But the one team I've been following throughout the course of the year that's been much improved compared to normal, even though their seed isn't reflected, look at the Golden Lions of Arkansas Pine Bluff. They would be my dark horse to win this tournament.
Ooh, Mike, who do you think wins the SWAC tournament at the end of the day here?
Hmm. go with Florida A&M.
Good pick.
Good pick, but Griggs, I'm going one seed in this tournament.
I am
You got to
too.
do it somewhere. Bethune-Cookman never been to the NCAA tournament. Reggie Theus, Coach of the Year, uh, won
But
all kinds of
Chad,
awards this year.
they are one of those teams. They've won a lot of close games. They've won a lot of them, but they're my pick too. But I don't think they're going to skate to it.
I don't know that they get the close game to the championship though, because I don't think Prairie View gives them much of a battle. And Texas Southern has been up and down. Actually, came on hot, but I think FAMU and maybe Southern and Pine Bluff are the three teams to look out for in this conference tournament. They're all in the bottom half of the bracket there. So, I mean, Texas Southern does have Johnny Jones. There are some pretty good coaches in this conference.
Yeah, there are. This has been a fun league to watch this year.
That's it for tomorrow's games also. So let's jump over to our survival board. This is a tool we do for the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee where we
Yes,
help them
yes.
out. And we track the number of teams left alive for a chance to win, and we track whether they should be in, out. Really helps them out. They love the work that we do here.
Oh yeah, it helps them out big time because the selection committee they're just so busy in their normal jobs that they just don't have time to watch a lot of basketball.
So heading into the day today, we had 269 teams left with a shot to win. Now we did just lose, just as we started this, we lost a team from the Sun Belt that has not been reflected yet. We're going to lose a team from the Big Sky later tonight, and assuming Santa Clara wins, we'll also lose Pacific tonight. So we could lose three more, but at least heading at that point, let's see where we were. 213. We could be at
Wow.
210 by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just a lot of
Actually,
eliminations
two
today.
212 as of the moment. Again, we did not quite get that updated before we
And
started.
that's not even counting a couple ACC coaches that also fell off the survival board, and Damon Stoudemire and Earl Grant.
Yeah,
Those teams were eliminated, not the coaches, but the teams. But
yeah,
these teams are in various different type fonts and everything. For example, Griggs, we see High Point in there,
yeah.
bold end caps and everything. What does that mean?
Well, it means that they've won the auto bid. Like the committee doesn't even need to worry about selecting them; they're just automatically in
All right.
as
Well,
conference champs.
what if the committee comes to this board and said, what about Michigan? Maybe we shouldn't give Michigan a bid. They had a good year and everything,
Yeah.
but Mike's a fan of them, and maybe we don't like Mike.
Right, and maybe they saw the game against Duke, and it's conceivable that might have been the only time they've seen Michigan play. I mean, a committee member's not going to know how good Michigan is. That's why we have this board for them, and they can cross-reference that and see that they should take Michigan.
What if they came to this board and one of them started thinking, we love that Chad Sherwood. He gives us all that info, and he's a Rutgers guy. Maybe we should give Rutgers an at-large bid.
Yeah, and again, maybe they hadn't seen Rutgers, but for a few games, I think Rutgers won their last game, and a committee member could very easily think, well, we should select this team. I just saw them yesterday, and they looked great. Again, they would come to this board and cross-reference that and see that they should not take Rutgers.
And
Now,
about
what if
this
you're
team-
UNC? I was going to say, what if you're UNC Wilmington, where you just picked a bad day to have a good day? What do we do about them?
Yeah, there they are in red. What do we do with that, Griggs?
Well, red means that they're just eliminated.
So they cannot take them.
Yeah, they can't take it. Is that what that means? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it means that they can't take them. And I can understand wanting to take them, and I'm sorry they can't take them, but I mean, the survival board has spoken.
What if one of them comes to this screen though and says, New Mexico is a beautiful state. It's a
Yeah.
great part of the country.
Yeah, great
Maybe we
beaches, thing.
There's no beaches in New Mexico. Uh,
Well, a committee member might think that there are.
what about New Mexico? Should we take them or leave them out?
Well, we're
What
going to
do you
make
think?
them kind of discuss that. Like the board doesn't do all the work for them. But it does tell them like who they need to be focusing on and who they need to be debating.
That's it for the survival board. Let's talk a little bit about your AI system here again, Griggs, because
Well,
I spent 700, I'm almost $800 into
Well-
this thing at this point.
Well,
I'm
Chad,
not
I got to
liking
say
it.
that sales have been disappointing, and I just don't think you're using it right. I think the problem is you.
Well, I'm typing in very college basketball related questions, and Griggs AI should know about college basketball.
Well, it does. Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing tool of genius level intelligence.
Well, and so I went to another AI just to test out a question again. And today's question I tried to put in was that there are many different college basketball rankings and metrics: the net, KenPom, WOB, SOR, top 25 polls. Which metric is the best?
Ooh, this is kind of a good question. Yeah.
Now this other AI, compared all the metrics and really said there was no real best one, and they each have different uses.
Oh, so it didn't answer the question.
Well, it said for tournament selection, go with net. For predicted winners, go with KenPom. Uh, but overall, go with different ones. They give me a whole chart, all this information about the various different uses and weaknesses of each of the metrics. It was very, very detailed, Griggs.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't as good as what you would get with Griggs AI.
So let's put that same exact question in here to the Griggs AI. Let's see what happens.
The Northeast Conference football standings are the best metric in all of college basketball. They take into account road record against Power 4 teams, margin of victory, strength of schedule, D2 strength of schedule, and how many division games the Charlotte Hornets have won.
I'm done. I want my money back, Griggs.
Are you sure you put that in right?
The Charlotte Hornets.
Would that be the old Charlotte Hornets or the current Charlotte Bobcats / Charlotte Hornets?
It says Charlotte Hornets. I don't know what it means.
Well, I think you have to abonnet this question just so it give Griggs AI a second chance
I'm
to.
hitting the abonnet button. Nothing happens. I'm hitting the base button. Nothing happens. That's it. Let's go to final thoughts. Salika.
I wasn't on last night, so unfortunately I didn't get to participate in the discussion about a couple of bubble teams that have been losing towards the end of the regular season, like Cal and SMU, that have been tanking. Of course, not that they would want to tank, but now you look at a team like Stanford, who had just been lying through the weeds. They looked like they were dead after one of their top players got injured. They've quietly risen to the 20-win plateau, and I think they actually did make it to at least 500 in the SEC, got the big road win at NC State. Now, I know this is the year of the horse, but wouldn't the ultimate irony be Stanford potentially sending SMU to the glue factory?
God, no.
Oh.
That's worse than Griggs AI. Mike, please save us.
Yeah, just so many upsets these last couple of days. I mean, who would have thought a 6 seed Northern Iowa would win? But I guess in terms of seeding, yes, that's a major upset. But in terms of the team, living up to its potential, maybe it's not that surprising. And I think that's why with these smaller conferences, you always have to go beneath the surface because there's always factors like, oh, was this team injured or was this team just underperforming? And especially in these under the radar conferences, a team that's not that highly seeded can win it all. And we're seeing so many upsets. Anything can happen on a given day. And I'm just, I guess like Greg said, this is just the halfway point of conference championship week, and I'm just, to me, it feels like a holiday. It's like a 14-day holiday. I really feel that way.
It is great. And you're right. We've got a 9 seed in the CAA semifinals. We've got a 10 seed in the Sun Belt Championship game tomorrow night, and a 10 seed that's won 3 million games in a row to get there. Greg, you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, as exciting as this all is, as a fan of a lot of the under the radar conferences, it does sort of make your heart sink a little bit to see Belmont and UNC Wilmington and Navy and these teams that had fantastic years have pick a bad day to have a bad day, as I say, and end up losing all of that because of the conference tournament. And Bruce Pearl, I never thought I would say this. He said something that I actually kind of agreed with, and it's like, why don't these leagues build their brackets in a way that have either home court advantage for the better seeded teams, which in this case wouldn't help Navy out, or have them buy into the semifinals. I kind of agree with that. And you see a lot of the different tournament bracket formats on here. You can look at them all on the conference tournament tab. I think more leagues, some of them, I know that Arch Madness, they would not go for this because it's just such a classic event and all that, but should they consider doing something if they can to help out the top seeds?
Yeah, I agree. I like formats. I honestly like the Sun Belt format, even though it's crazy.
Yeah.
Big advantage to the top seeds. I like the Horizon League. They have a home court. They had advantage to the top seeds. I
Yeah.
like these crazy. A lot of these crazier formats help the top seeds, and I do agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But on that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back again. How about this? We've got a double header of podcasts coming out tomorrow. Early evening or middle or maybe mid-evening or something. We will be doing our last bracket rundown show of the night of the week. And then a couple hours after that, we're going to be hitting with another video notebook. But on behalf of David Griggs, John Sleeka, Mike Cha, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.